Welcome to the... Oh, wait. Only hosts should do the intro.
Welcome back to the Geek Battalion Vets QRF series. I'm your favorite third host, Tony.
God, that stung a little. I like it.
Think of me as your random uncle who shows up whenever he feels like it and drinks all your beer and leaves.
Yeah. Like occasionally you accidentally sit on your hand for... 10 or 15 minutes, and then just, stuff happens. Magic.
They call that the stranger.
Yeah. Stranger host. That's
whatever. I show up whenever I damn well feel like it.
What did I get myself into tonight?
Yeah.
And three of us are here, and that other host isn't.
Oh. I mean, he really, really wants to be, I'm sure.
I'm sure he does.
But anyways, you were going to say something about why we're here, maybe?
Well... We're here tonight.
Oh, because we're going to talk about Rebel Moon. Oh,
well, we were going to talk
about Rebel Moon.
Yes, and then we changed our mind, and so instead,
without telling me.
Well, when you say it like that, it sounds bad. Basically, we ran out of time, and some of us, Tony, hadn't watched it yet.
It's the holidays. Get over it.
Who is that again? Who is it?
It's the holidays. Get over it.
Tony.
So instead,
yeah.
Instead, we're going to talk about the Netflix original Blue Eye Samurai.
Yeah, I'm good with that. Hell yeah.
You working? Cool.
Yeah, let's do it. Jimmy, nothing?
Yeah, sure. I can lead us off here real quick. But first, I would just like to say thank you, everybody, for all the listens that you've given us over the past several months and the past year. The little podcast that could is just doing amazing. We are knocking it out, and we're still climbing up that ladder. So we do appreciate everybody that does listen and that is shared, bought merch and everything. Speaking of merch, Christmas time right now, we have specials going on. All of the hosts here are wearing some sort of Geek Battalion merch, where you can buy at geekbattalionvets.threadless.com. We have not Star Wars. We do have Star Wars. No, we do. Yeah. We have
that's a thing.
Star
I think
Wars,
Ahsoka's in the house.
Ahsoka, Ninja Turtles, Spider-Man. There's all kinds of different designs, all kinds of different swag. So go ahead, check that out, pick that up. That helps support us, your favorite podcast of all time. Again, that's geekbattalionvets.threadless.com. But more importantly, we are here for our QRF series featuring our special co-host.
I'm just a co-host.
I haven't
the
even
original
had a beer.
third co-host.
Yeah.
The original. That's true.
Yeah,
I like that.
It is. Yeah.
You're the prequel of the current
Yes. Throw it in there.
Fuck. But yeah, so we're going to talk about Blue Eye Samurai.
All right, let's get it.
Wish we had some awesome samurai music.
Yeah, here you go. Actually, I was clairvoyant and I had this prepared.
Oh, well
Awful.
done. Well done. But yeah, so this is, what is it about? We're going to try not to spoil it for you because this is something that we both feel very, very high on. Yes. And we want you to enjoy it as much as we did. So we're going to try not to spoil it for you. We're just going to talk about some of the things we like about it, the highlights, really. And I guess I'll start off by saying what is it about? It's a classic revenge tale, right? With some samurai dabble in there.
Yeah, full disclosure, I am not an anime fan. I have a hard time getting into it. I enjoy Cowboy Bebop, which is the introductory to anime, I think, for everyone. But
that or Dragon Ball.
See, I've
hated Dragon Ball.
The only Cowboy Bebop I've ever seen is the live action,
which I enjoyed.
I loved it. Apparently, it's widely hated.
It's hated. But yes, Blue Eye Samurai, revenge story.
Yes. So without giving anything away, the main character, the Blue Eye Samurai, the name is Mizu, is the character's name. And the reason they are blue-eyed is because they are the white devil, or demon, I think is what they call them. So this takes place in Japan, feudal Japan, around the time where it was illegal to bring anything from the outside world into Japan. So the Shogun of Japan has declared that no white people are allowed in Japan. Well, somehow 4 white people ended up in Japan. One of them, we don't know who, had a child with some local resident. And it turns out these 4 white people were terrible, terrible people because they were bringing guns into Japan in hopes of overthrowing the shogun. And it just starts off. Well, the beginning is pretty all gas, I would say, when you first get in there. It has a lot of the old samurai tropes and Old West tropes, the spaghetti Western tropes that I love. So that was one thing that hooked me right away.
Yes. So I think if you think of it in the context of Kill Bill, easiest one for most people for at least for more current cinema. We're looking at Kill Bill. We're looking at the samurai Volume 1. Yes. We're looking at the samurai kind of mystique. And so we have our main character, Mitsu, who is navigating what it is to be a child, number one, to be of mixed heritage. So white parent and a
blue eyes
Asian parent as well. And during that time period where Japan was looking at closing kind of their borders, they were not real keen on foreign influence. Her mixed heritage made her an outcast among society. So growing up, she was ostracized by the other kids and
bullied
and had to become stronger than what she was. I think what she was ready to be, but she didn't have a choice. Right. And so we get to see her kind of her origin story right out the gate. As a child that's picked on, has to fight her way to the top, ends up with kind of a mentor, if you will, early on.
That's fair.
You'll see it early on, so it doesn't spoil anything. It's Sword Father. It's a blacksmith who is particularly skilled at making
he's the Hattori
swords.
Hanzo of this universe.
Absolutely.
So, his swords are priceless, and everybody wants some of that.
Absolutely. And so the show does a really good job about showing kind of the beginning of her story as a troubled child who learns a trade, but it also through her work with the blacksmith, the sword maker, she gets to see some of the best swordsmen in the country, and gets to watch them perfect their art with the new blades they've received. And she's a good student, so she's watching, she's learning, and she's becoming better at what she does. You learn very quickly that everyone, and this part kills me a little bit, everyone believes that she is a man.
Yeah, and I guess we probably should have led with that. It's kind of a spoiler, but it's voiced by, and we'll get into the cast here in a second, but it's obviously a female voice, so it's very obvious from the beginning.
Yes.
So as a viewer, it's not like the big reveal when it finally happens.
No.
As weird as it fucking is not that powerful.
No, and they get to that very quickly.
Yeah.
They let you know that this is in fact a woman. But even when you look at the drawing style that's done throughout the series, you find most of the men have a much more square jaw, mostly. And the women tend to have a more narrow V-shaped jaw throughout the entire series. So you get over that part. I think as a viewer, you realize that's happening. You accept it, you move on. But it doesn't spoil a single thing.
No, not really.
I think it's best to say up front that this is more of an adult-centered
not more of it, 100% is.
100%.
Children should not be allowed anywhere
Not
near
even
this.
a little bit. No, there's a lot of nudity.
And that's not even the weirdest part. It's the sex scenes are very weird.
There's some sex scenes.
And I'm not going to say there's a lot, but as a grown-ass man watching a cartoon that involves a sex scene, we actually had this conversation earlier. What would you rather have happen? have any person in your life, we'll just say your spouse, have your spouse walk in while you're watching this show during one of those scenes, or like your mom catching you masturbate. Which would you rather have?
Actually, no, take mom off because that's like another level.
Yeah, it is.
Dude,
Anyone walk in on you masturbating or watching anime sex scenes.
Okay, how about this? How about your dad in both scenarios?
Oh,
which one are you picking?
I hate everything about it.
Why? I think I'm taking
masturbation because at least then he's like,
yeah,
good for you.
Lock the door.
But if he sees
I'm going to go the other way.
No, that's
my-
because you haven't seen it.
If my father walks in and I'm jacking off to anime, he's going to have questions that I don't want to answer.
Yeah,
If
he's
he
gonna
walks
start telling his
in,
buddies things about his son, like I don't know,
Dude, my son's so weird.
you
yes.
wouldn't believe this.
Otherwise, he goes, normal kid. And he moves on down the road.
Like, wash your hands.
Yes.
And
We'll have
Next
some
time, lock
awkward
the door.
glances, and
Yeah.
then we're just going to move on.
we won't
If you
tell your
walked in-
mom.
It's awful.
Yeah, so we're
It's
talking about a cartoon right now. But anyways, that's how awkward the scenes are, in my opinion. I
Yes.
just don't want another human catch me watching those
No,
I mean,
particular
it
scenes.
can't be more awkward than in The Boys where Homelander is drinking, the milk. That's a little awkward.
I disagree.
No, it's more
I
awkward
disagree.
than
I
that.
think
Now,
it's
that
more
was
awkward.
uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yes.
That was definitely uncomfortable, and I will agree with you.
That's natural. That's a natural thing.
It definitely
that
made
happens.
it made me say, like, I don't know.
I'm not.
What am I watching here? But
I muted it for no reason. I was home alone.
Yes.
but I muted it and then I locked all the doors.
I will
around me.
say
And
that
that
while
Vaseline found its way into your hand.
damnedest thing.
I'll tell you. I'll tell you. I wouldn't deny it if it happened. No, man, this is fucking weird. Like that part
Yeah.
weirded me out. I wasn't down with it at all, but it didn't take me out of it. Like it was.
No,
was
it caught me off
weird.
guard.
Yes.
It caught me off guard. Like we discussed earlier on. When I watched the first episode, I watched it by myself because I wasn't sure if my wife was going to be interested in the show or not. As I was finishing the very first episode, which it's an 8-episode first season. This doesn't ruin anything for anyone. But at the end of the first episode, you realize that yes, in fact, you are dealing with a female protagonist.
A female samurai.
Yes, as they were revealing that,
Peaches.
my wife was walking up the stairs to my office area where I was watching this, and the only thing I could think to myself was, "Mother of God, will this scene end before she gets to the top of the stairs, or am I going to have to explain what I'm watching?"
I was not so fortunate. I thought because of the nature of the show and it being a cartoon that, okay, we're going to do that a couple of times. And that as the season progressed, I'm probably safe towards the end. Like we're almost to the end of the story.
But
I'm
you're not.
probably okay. And I chose to watch it while my wife was preparing to fall asleep. I thought she was asleep, and then noises started being made, and she's like, "What the fuck are you watching?" And I'm like, "God damn it! I have no way of explaining this. I don't know what to say. It's not porn. It's not porn."
It's the anime.
She didn't believe me.
I swear.
Well, I wanted to, make a stance about penetration, and
Nope.
but I'm like, you know what?
Let that
Today's
one
not
go.
that day. Today's not.
There's
that
a
day.
better hill to die on.
Yeah. But anyways, I don't know how we got down that rabbit hole, but
All that to say, there is a lot of adult content within this series, so be prepared prior to going into it.
That's fair.
That you need to make sure you are aware of your surroundings. So if you download it and you're at an airport, not the best place.
Headphones are going to be essential at that point.
I will
and
say,
if you're watching a show in an airport without headphones, you're an asshole.
Yeah,
I'm
you're-
just throwing
you're
that
the
out
dick.
there.
I hate that. I hate people that just don't have that awareness.
but I will say that I guess in terms of most of the shows that we watch with the nudity or the sex scenes that do exist already, it was nothing that I would say was overly gratuitous.
Not at all. There's some weird scenes
There's
where
some
they're
stuff.
walking through lack of a better term, a brothel, whorehouse, whatever you want to call it. There's some interesting things going on in the background that they don't spend a lot of time on, but
But
it's
does it drive the story forward? I say yes. As you say no, I say yes.
There was one line that said, we specialize in oddities. Specific interests.
Look, I'm here for the oddities. Let's see what happens.
I went down this. You tricked me once before, okay, but it's not happening again.
There's
all right?
minimal.
Oh, so he got you into Two Girls, One Cup.
He's the one that made me watch it.
I will tell you right now, if I hear that song, I know exactly what's about to happen. No, thank you. There's limited octopus in this one. I will say there are references to tentacle, but
there's definitely a squid involved.
Two.
But anyways, it's not that bad.
It's not that bad.
We just spent the last 15 minutes talking about it. But
no, I mean, honestly, if you enjoy a show that has to do with the samurai culture,
absolutely,
and many of the samurai shows that you may have seen, like I said, I referenced Kill Bill Volume 1 because of the fact that and I know that Kill Bill didn't originate these scenes. I know that they took these from other movies that they had seen, but they use very similar scenes. We do the samurai showdown with the snow. We do the samurai showdown in front of the ocean backdrop. We do the samurai showdown within the forest, in a bar, wherever it may be. A number of combatants that you're up against. Everything that they do rings familiar.
Yeah,
and every time you see it, though, it's one of those scenes where you're like, oh, man, I've seen something similar to this before. I want to see how this one goes.
That being said, the story is the driving force behind this. The animation style, again, I'm not a big anime guy. I wouldn't say it's heavy into that style.
Not at all.
I don't. I mean, they
do some very cool slow-mo.
Yes.
They do a lot of the slow-mo where they will do the blood spatter, which I thought was really cool.
Really awesome.
And then they'll do some of the limb severing in a slow-mo fashion,
because
which I thought was amazing.
There's not a lot of options when you're a samurai.
No, you're
not
going to
give a scratch to someone and be like, gotcha, bitch. Like, that's
fair.
Yeah. It's somebody's getting maimed pretty bad.
So they do a good job with that, and the way they did the art on this particular series was very similar to most of the movies because they were using those same ideas of the slow motion, the soundtrack that they used for a lot of the different scenes.
Amazing.
Helped to drive that particular scene forward.
Yes.
You get to actually utilize some of the music from Kill Bill Volume 1, as well as Metallica.
Yes.
That's
one of my favorite scenes.
Battery? Is it Battery?
No, it's For Whom the Bell Tolls.
Oh, and bonus, they do For Whom the Bell Tolls Japanese language version, which I did not know existed.
It's got like a different twist to it, too. It's got like a different style to it, and it's so badass.
It's very good.
But like the production of the whole thing... it's very easy to watch. The pace is outstanding. They put it in this perfect size package for you of 8 episodes that I never felt like they went on too long or drug on at times. Like, it was always, they took the natural pauses that they needed and deviated storylines when they needed. And I loved everything about the production value. But as our good friend Duncan has said before, one thing that really...
Did you...
What?
Who did you call me?
Duncan. If he were here, he would say this.
He would say this.
Here.
Oh,
gotcha.
No, see, I thought you relegated him to good friend rather than host.
Well, I'm just making sure we realize... I'm just making sure that we acknowledge that Duncan chose not to be here tonight. That's all I'm saying.
Let's be honest. Did he even know we're here? I don't think he knows.
Absolutely not. Because when I show up under cover of dark... Well, that's it.
If ever there was a time
subterfuge is afoot.
If ever there was a time to introduce the text he just gave me, he just said, I'm much more interested in hearing the Lucky Make-A-Wish listener, Tony, and you talk about Blue-Eyed Samurai.
This is the moment where I remind people that if you haven't seen Joker, the cinematic masterpiece starring Joaquin Phoenix, you absolutely should. Make sure you send all questions to Duncan and ask him to explain his favorite scenes.
That's not what we do in QRF. This is supposed to be a tight package.
And again, we do have a rule that if something is suggested by a viewer, We have to watch it.
As a reminder, you viewers control this podcast. Recommend that
but I'm
you
going to
watch
pretend like I control it for a second here and go back to what I was fucking talking about. As I said, Duncan brought up many times in the past that something that makes a animated show go from good to great is the voice cast.
Yes.
And this cast
Phenomenal.
is amazing. The lead of the character Mizu, she is Maya Erskine. I didn't know her from anybody, but apparently,
Turns out,
apparently she was in Obi-Wan, Obi-Wan
yes.
show. And she is also the co-star of the upcoming Mr. and Mrs. Smith series.
Oh, she's the actress.
With Donald Glover.
Nice.
She's Mrs. Smith.
I like it
in
already.
that.
Nice.
But she's excellent in this. She's great. The second bill goes to George Takei,
Oh my.
and he's incredible in this.
It's very good.
He probably steals the show. I don't give a fuck that he was in Star Trek. I'm just saying he's great in this.
He does so well that to the point that you may actually miss that it's George Takei if you're not paying attention.
I don't think I knew until I looked it up.
I would say it was almost one of the last episodes where I realized that his voice was familiar, where I said, I've absolutely heard this actor's voice.
That's like Invincible with me. Like I'm working through Invincible right now, and I didn't realize it was Stephen Yeun until we talked about it on the pod here, and then I was like, that's Stephen Yeun. Okay, cool. But that's no.
Yeah. But no, he kind of steals the show. He's great.
Absolutely.
But Masi Oka, who you might know him from Heroes.
Yes.
I know him specifically from a scene in Austin Powers Goldmember when they're like, look, it's Godzilla. And he's like, no, we can't say Godzilla because of international copyrights, but we'll just scream and run like it could be Godzilla.
I did not realize
That's
that was him.
But he was one of the main
Hero.
characters from Heroes. Yeah, Hero from Heroes.
He was the main, at least the main character from season 1. next to
Brenda
Hayden.
Song has been in a couple of big things, but I don't know her from anybody. Randall Park, who he was the FBI agent in WandaVision and Ant-Man. He's great. He's actually one of the main villains in this. And he's like, the whole time I got about 3 or 4 episodes in and I'm like, I know this voice. Where is this voice from? And then when I looked it up to see who it was, I'm like, no way, the card trick guy?
Same. It made sense once you saw who it was. He did such a good job with that particular character.
He's like menacing and
when you
so
think about
evil.
his character in WandaVision versus his character in Blue Eye
how
Samurai,
goofy he was.
they're so polar opposites,
Yeah.
and it makes just for that much better of an
absolutely.
actor that he is. When you hear that, you're like, wow, you totally separated from that kind of bumbling, goofy guy character into this person that I'm genuinely
He's
a little
terrifying.
nervous about. Yes.
Even though he's kind of a bitch. Like he's kind of a bitch, but he's a man of power.
Ain't no kind of
and-
about it. He's an absolute bitch.
But he's terrifying. He's a terrifying
terrifying bitch, but still.
And then you meet one of the 4 white devils in the show, who's none other than the director of the Thor movie that we reviewed not too long ago, Kenneth Branagh. And he's really good too. Again, another terrifying, just absolute fucking terrible person.
At the end of the day, this story is about killing white people.
And white people being the worst
Yes.
thing on the planet, which
At that time, and this character embodies that. He is every bit as awful as I think the stereotype, especially during this time period, which is like 1600s, made sense.
he also has an interesting take on the term brown noser, but I'll let you figure that out for yourself down the road.
It's about episode 6.
Yeah, it's in there.
You'll know.
The next is Kari Hiroyuki Tagawa, who you might know him as Shang Tsung from Mortal Kombat. He's been in a ton of stuff.
Yes, he was.
but he was the Shogun. You don't get to meet him till like
Much
way
later.
later.
Much later.
Trying to see if there's... Oh, and then probably the next biggest notable name is Ming-Na Wen, who she was Fennec Shand in Book of Boba Fett and The Mandalorian. But she has a pretty pivotal role, and she's... This is a... I mean, I'm not really familiar with her work outside of Star Wars, but this is like another drastic directional change from those characters. It's different. Yeah.
The voice actors for this series, I think, bring the characters to life in that they're familiar voices that we've all heard in other movies, series, whatever it may be. So there's a familiarity there, and the way that they sell each of those characters, and it kind of brings it to a point where you can almost look beyond the fact that this is an animated series and see it more of in a realistic light, I would say.
Oh, I agree.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, she's also the main character of Mitsu has this, she's kind of like John Wick in that she's pretty great at everything she does.
She spent years.
Yes.
And they never really explain the time that has passed. They
do say later on that it's been 20 years since their arrival. So you see her 18, 19, 20, somewhere in there.
In that time period. And so you anticipate that she has at least 15 to 20 years of extensive training, although it's firsthand training. It's not training with a partner, training with any sort of actual master or sensei type person. It's her watching, learning, and then almost mimicking the behaviors and the styles that she's seen from hundreds and hundreds of different people that have come through the shop.
And I loved how, like, sometimes kind of like Superman, things like, well, you can't beat him in any way, shape, or form. He's perfect at everything, right? And she kind of has that feeling at times, but I was rooting for her all the time. Like, I wanted her to just mop the floor with everyone.
She has that, and at the same time, she still fails.
Over and over again.
And over again. So you see a flawed hero, which I would actually say is less of a hero early on. She is strictly driven by vengeance.
Oh, yes.
But you see her fail, and as good as she is, and the anticipation that as much training as she has gone through, that she should be perfect at this point, she still doesn't have a perfect battle.
Right.
Even when she's up against, one-on-one, or if she's up against a number of foes, there will be times during that where she will misstep and something will happen to her that will cause some sort of injury or something that will slow her down to the point where I think even as a viewer, you're wondering like, oof, how's she going to recover from that?
And that's where I kind of equate her to John Wick.
Yes.
Like, she gets abdomen wounds in this show.
Girl gets cut
like John Wick gets hit by cars. Okay,
yes.
So it just happens over and over again.
It
like,
does.
She's running at least a court low through the
all
whole
of it.
Final half of the
girl
series.
needs a blood donor early.
For sure. But I mean, like I said, I can't say enough about the show, and I would be lying if the first thought that came in my head after the first episode was like, what if this was Star Wars? Because
that would have been amazing.
Oh my God, this could be a Star Wars story. There's so many parallels, and like,
absolutely,
every time she has this amazing sword that you find out that she made herself, and it's made from this special material and yada yada yada, but it has this like blue sheen to it, and all I could think of was like every time.
Absolutely,
I was like, oh, it could be a lightsaber. It definitely could be a lightsaber.
Here's the thing, it's a revenge story that takes place during the Edo period.
The Edo period, I forgot about that.
The 1600s of Japan.
Okay,
it's a time period where they were cutting
very
off
horny
access to Japan from outside influence.
Yeah.
And super horny.
That part is not
what I saw on Wikipedia.
Oh.
but I
They
believe
didn't
it.
mention the horny part.
I didn't see it. I didn't scroll a lot, but it could be there.
So did they mention in the Wikipedia article that they also are the inventor of the Chindo? But what would the term for that be? The nose schlong? I don't know.
That thing?
yeah.
No.
What do you call that? Is that a Joker mask? Like, what do you call that?
I don't know. It's definitely Pinocchio.
Pinocchio.
So here's
that's
the
it.
There's some weird sex. There's some weird sex
Okay,
things in this.
that's what I was thinking. You guys were talking
Here's what you
about.
should know. There will be at least 2 octopus in a brothel.
Hold on. there is, but
okay, it's not as
they
gratuitous.
don't show anything.
No, but anybody
you know
who
what's
knows
happening.
anything, when they
You've
bust
been
an
on the
octopus
internet
out,
for more
yes.
than 15 seconds.
When they bust an octopus out, you
Shit's
understand
going
where they're
down.
going. There may be a mask that has a very long, very long
There's
nose.
an awkward monologue. It's very grunty. I think you could say, yeah.
Okay, so
I'm trying.
Strained.
so what would be your made up ratings?
Ooh. I mean, without giving anything away, I'm gonna go with the nose dildo mask. I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 3. Pinocchio mask dildos.
Oh.
How about that?
Okay.
I was just going with man. I was gonna go 5 broken meteorite swords out of 5.
That's good. I like it.
I go with
like
that. It was everything about that show was perfect in the sense that the pacing was correct. The characters or the actors that they chose for the characters were correct.
Right.
And the overall story was correct. I will say, here's one issue I had.
I'd love to hear it. Yes.
Ringo.
Slightly annoying.
Ringo
Yeah.
is the necessary sidekick character that we have for every single show. I had a love-hate relationship with Ringo.
Yes.
Ringo is...
You could replace him with Po from Kung Fu Panda very easily, I think.
Absolutely, you could.
Because they both love to make noodles. And
He's obsessed with noodles. You see him very early on. He is a handless character.
Yes.
He was born with 2 nubs for hands. He's a buffoon character in a lot of respects. They kind of portray him as such and treat him as such throughout. He is the person who has the good soul, good spirit.
Yes.
And is always there. He's loyal to a
He
fault.
also helps the hero write the course at some point.
He does. He's almost I would say he's almost a moral compass, if you will, in a lot of
100%.
respects.
Yes.
Because there are parts of this show where he calls out Mitsu and kind of reminds her of the fact that maybe she could be better than what she currently is or thinks that she is. The problem I have, in a lot of respects, is he's got a damn plank for a hat.
Yes, he does have a plate, like a Japanese sushi plate.
It made
for a
me think
hat.
of like the Rastafari or Pastafari. Sorry, it made me think of the Pastafari
Yes.
people who
Yeah, the
wear
Pastafarians.
who wear
Yeah.
the
The colanders.
pasta. Yes, the colander on their head. That's what they wear. And so every time I saw him with this wooden plank as a hat, I understand that it keeps the rain and the snow off his head. But it drove me damn crazy to see him with a plank over his head.
But you also get to see his taint. So
there's that.
There's that.
And
but it's in a very wholesome way. It's
There's a
Things
whole-
I wouldn't think I'd see in a cartoon.
there's a whole thing.
100%.
There's a
You and
whole
me
thing
both.
about peaches, and you'll see that early on.
Can eat a peach for hours. I
Steve,
don't
do you
know.
have any issues with the show?
I was thinking about that. I'm very much still in the honeymoon phase. I just finished it last weekend, and it's fucking great. It's really, really good.
Okay.
My only complaint is I want more. And they
Yes.
did get renewed for a second season.
Okay, that was going to be a follow-on.
Finishes off in a spot
It makes sense. We need more.
There will be more. Not where I was hoping it would go, but I'm sure it could be interesting. So,
yeah. I mean, the basic premise behind this is our main character is trying to kill 4 white people.
4 white dudes.
Who ruined Japan.
Right. Yeah.
And at the end of the first season, we're still trying to figure out what's going to happen with the white people that she is seeking out to kill.
Yes.
All right.
And so it ends at a logical point. It's, I think, a good series is the series that makes you want more when it ends, and this does exactly that. Yeah, I was happy. I will say, as much disdain as I had for Ringo to a certain degree, I loved his character, and if that's the best I can come up with for being angry,
I agree. Yeah, he's
the
fine. He's
show did
harmless,
great.
and he's such a small, portion of the show.
Every time you're annoyed with him, the very next scene he's in, you'll be like, my guy.
Maybe we should keep
All right,
him.
I like him.
Okay, you can stay.
Yes, it's absolutely the character, and they do a good job with that, where they will have a scene where it's a bit annoying, and then his very next scene, you kind of go like, wow, that's the character you need in that position to kind of bring our protagonist back to center line, as much center line as we can get.
I will also say that every thought that I had about Ringo, Mitsu has it as well, and she expresses it to him. So I'm like, well, at least someone's telling him.
Absolutely,
at least someone knows. So I mean, everything was so well done. I wish I had a complaint. I wish I had a knock on it. I wish it was Star Wars. How about that?
Yeah,
because it was so good. But
again, as a person who does not watch anime, it was easy to forget I'm watching anime.
I will say the nudity and the sex scenes that we talked about, if you tone that down or take it out completely, I don't think you lose anything.
But I also wonder if the reason it was weird was because it was anime. If I saw 100%
that
our
again, I think,
Game of Thrones, if I watched everything that happened in Game of Thrones, I was totally cool with.
Yes.
Yep, you should put that on there. She should totally be naked right there. Whatever it is.
Yeah, that guy should definitely bang his sister.
Yeah, that's totally his sister, and for whatever reason, it works with the story.
Kill that kid. Throw him out the window.
This show, I think it really was the fact that making my brain switch from Saturday morning cartoons, and now I'm watching a cartoon.
Well, I mean, I've watched plenty of animated shows, but
hentai?
No, I have not. But I've never really been into anime, and for the most part, it's been Star Wars, where they don't really go into that.
There will be no touching.
So I suppose if there's your tentacle stuff on one end, and then this is pretty tame compared to that.
Everything we're saying is we're exaggerating it to a degree that's unnecessary, but.
And remember, we're, for the most part, the White Devil in this story.
We're at least 2 of them that they're coming after, apparently, based on her vendetta of being...
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't blame her at all.
God, no.
Kill him. But...
all right. So one thing you would be hopeful for in season 2, Tio?
For season 2, what I'm looking for is... I'm interested in the fact of the location where it will be, where the story will be continuing. I'm hoping to see. Let's be real. I want the violence back. This is a woman who killed somebody with a severed leg, so I need them to be able to up. It sounds terrible. Up the violence, because that, quite honestly, is part of what makes this show amazing, is her ability to sever limbs, overcome adversity.
Yeah.
Oh God, I forgot about that scene.
Snapping necks.
Yes.
Yes.
I need her to, what I would like to see them do is to continue to show the moral dilemma that Mitsu has with what she's doing. Because as easy as it is to say that you're you are seeking revenge for the wrongs that you either have endured or you've perceived. Throughout this show, there is a constant conflict where Mitsu is trying to grapple with the idea of what's necessary for her to complete what she believes is her mission, and also to be a human.
Right.
So I need them to push further into that, because as far as they pushed it in season 1, I think they can push it significantly further in season 2, where she's really questioning the validity of what she's doing.
I'm down with that. I wouldn't say I need them to up more violence.
Kill them all. Let's do this.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm saying as long as they stay on par,
Sure.
you're gonna make me happy. 100%. The location I'm concerned about.
It could be cool. I'm excited. They could ruin it.
They could,
But I'm excited.
I just don't know. It works so well where it's at, and obviously there's a big story element later on in like the back half of the season that she has to get this item back, and that's going to be a big thing.
It will be
to get this particular item back. I'm intrigued about that, and if you're not in that place anymore, how are you gonna go and get it? But I don't know. I would love to. I don't know how they do it, but there's in the very first episode, there's a fantastic scene where she's mopping the floor with dozens of people. And then she finally gets a worthy adversary, and he's kind of freaking having his way for a little bit. But then she does something that totally flips the script, and you're like, "Holy shit!" And then she handles business, and it's so amazing. I want another scene like that. Where
she's an epic
just like,
trash talker.
oh yes,
I shouldn't even say epic, but she does it. It's one of those where I think all of us wish we could say that perfect thing that just
and then cut somebody's head off,
and then you sever a limb, and it's fine. And I backed it up.
I mean, that's me on my drive home thinking, man, I wish I should have said that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, this woman kills people with a sword. I think she tries to kill people at least with a knife. She almost kills somebody with a chopstick.
I think she does kill somebody with a chopstick. Doesn't she?
Well, she definitely tries to. They talk about the fact in this show that, and she brags about it, I could kill you with anything. And she backs it up.
Yeah.
So, like, that's the character you want, as cold as she can be.
Yeah.
She ends up backing up every single time. It's perfect.
There's a episode that's, I want to say it's around the halfway point, that they tell a story within the story. Like there's,
Yes.
it's a puppeteer is telling this story, ancient Japanese tale, and the parallels to her are unbelievable. And like the imagery when she becomes this thing is fucking
It's great.
insane. So good. So good.
And they show that later on. The puppetry that they're doing has to do with, part of it has to do with a phoenix,
Right.
The crest of a phoenix. And later in the series, as you get towards the very end, there's a fire scene. She is emerging from the fire, and behind her over her shoulder is actually a painting that I believe is a phoenix as it lights up on fire. And it's one of those scenes where you show her. And again, I know it's animation, but the way that they conveyed the absolute anger and strength in her eyes, the way that she held herself, and the way that they put her in these different positions.
Right.
She's got the phoenix behind her as it's engulfed in flame, and the entire time you're watching it, you're like, she about to kill somebody. Oh God.
Run, motherfucker, run! Yeah, so good. I don't know if you call it cinematography still in animation.
I know, that's the thing.
But yes,
the way that
so good.
that they do each of those frames is amazing, because they show her in a way that she's scary. And the way that they show her expressions on her face, and the way that the artists, the people who drew that particular cell, I don't know how to explain it. When you look at it, again, this is being able to step away from the fact that it's animation, and it hits every single time, and you can feel just how how scary and how dangerous of a person she is throughout the entire thing.
Agreed.
My biggest complaint, y'all couldn't figure out that this was a woman at any point.
Yeah, I suppose.
Come on, she's interacting with women the whole time, and all these other women are going like, no. Now, I get it. Times are different.
Well,
but
I don't want to get into spoiler territories, but there's a particular scene where,
I know where you're at.
There's a sparring match, okay? Another samurai and her are sparring.
They're wrestling.
Yeah, and
they're actually wrestling.
like,
And as she rolls off, you see
he's like, "Oh,
that
sorry."
He's thinking he just had a little something
Came out
for
the
it.
scabbard a little early there.
There's some confusion
And he's
on
like,
his part.
"What is wrong with me?"
Yes, there is.
But then I think she was about to tell him at that point too.
Yes.
And then he's like, "I gotta hide this boner somewhere," so he runs away. But
I think he does use the excuse of, "Oh, I must have been away from my girlfriend for a while," and it's like, I don't know, man. I don't know if that's a good excuse.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know if that'll fly in wrestling practice. I don't know what the rules are there, but yeah, whatever.
Well, on that bombshell,
Yeah.
that's our review, superficial / not superficial deep dive of Blue-Eyed Samurai, and it's available on
Netflix.
8 episodes.
8 episodes. They're what, 30 minutes each?
They're about 45
to an hour.
They're 45 to an hour. The shortest is 35 minutes.
Okay.
You can burn this out
Yeah.
on a shitty weekend where you can't get out. Perfect time of the year for that.
Right. Like this weekend.
Make sure your kids are not close.
And also make sure you have an excuse for watching anime porn. It's
and
fine.
have the Vaseline ready.
Well, that's a you thing.
You might have to, move this. I apologize. We actually have a question. So,
no.
I know we don't usually do this for the QRF.
In a QRF, we have a question? Oh, Jesus. Okay.
Milk it all. Milk it all. Milk it all. Milk it all.
Impromptu mail call in the QRF.
Not to
this is a
disappoint.
completely
It's not
different
really.
setup
I
here.
mean, I guess we use Tony all the time for mail call questions. So,
Absolutely.
Duncan writes in.
What? Friend of the show. Got it, Duncan.
Yeah.
What do you got for me today?
His question is: at any point, did you guys think Mitsu was a dude? That's the only part of the show I found completely ridiculous. It's obvious she's a chick. So, that's
Yes.
what we were just talking about.
I did. That is one of the things that I did have an issue with.
But I did it
to a
first, but I
degree.
didn't. I stopped caring after. I guess I'm like, everyone in the story recognizes this as a man, so I'm like, I don't care. I guess that's part of the cover.
I think some of the issue is also is if we're applying current day thoughts to something that was supposed to be happening in the 1600s.
That's fair.
1600s that may not have been as prevalent. I don't exactly know how it was.
Maybe unheard of for some of the dress that the person
A
was
woman
wearing.
at the time was not going to wear samurai garb
True,
and
they
portray themselves.
They talk throughout the show about the fact that women have limited paths for their life.
And that's a whole nother storyline that's really amazing.
It's very interesting, and it's very hard to watch some of those scenes because they're talking about in the 1600s exactly what a woman's role was, and whether you agree with it based on today's standards or not. That's what it was in the 1600s in Japan at that time. And so the idea of women being relegated to certain specific roles, and you have a woman who is occupying a totally different lane, I could see other people around viewing her saying she doesn't fit within these predefined roles that we societally have for women. Therefore, she must be a man. But yes, friend of the show, Duncan, I agree with you. It is difficult at times because almost immediately, even when you look at how they drew her as a character compared to how they drew the other men, it's hard to not notice this is in fact a woman.
Right.
And also, she's interacting with other women and she's interacting with other men, and not a single person raises, hey, I wonder. No one says a word about it.
Right.
And so that part is a little bit challenging. But
but I don't. I
didn't hate it.
I don't think it takes. Maybe at the beginning, it's hard for you to understand because they don't give you a ton of backstory up front.
Right.
I wouldn't say it ever. It didn't really bother me, but I quit thinking about it, I guess, as you start to get into it.
Again, a good story. Those aspects no longer matter.
Right.
And the way they did the story, the fact that she was a man, whether she was a man or a woman, no longer mattered. You were excited for what she was going to do next.
Right.
And gender became kind of a non-issue.
Right. Well, it builds the tension, too, of,
it does.
At some point, there's going to be a reveal with someone important.
Right. And I think that is exciting.
Gonna happen.
That's kind of exciting when you think about the character she's interacting with. When's this person going to find out? How are they going to find out? What's it going to do to the character dynamic? So it's a bit of it's an exciting aspect of the entire storytelling.
Right.
But again, I understand how it could cause a little bit of you notice it, but I think it's easy to kind of forget about that and get lost in the overall storytelling and kind of what they developed with this program.
I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but I think in the end, like if everyone in the show finds out at some point, and this is hypothetical because you'll have to watch it to find out yourself, but I think the women in the series would have a harsher reaction to finding out that she's a woman than the men.
Really?
I do. I mean, I don't know. Maybe. I think so. Yes. I'm going to stand by that.
I will disagree with you on that.
Okay.
Only I think that being that we have 8 episodes, and it doesn't ruin it for anyone, where she dominates across the board against whomever she is fighting with, I think the men would definitely take it worse that they got bested in every conceivable aspect.
But I also feel like at that point, if it gets revealed, they'd be like, well, she's a fucking white demon. I mean, she's
that's
a demon.
Good point.
That's
a good point.
She's not even a real person.
It's easy. Yeah. She's not even a person. Yeah. What are you talking about? Yeah, I could see that being as well. I think the men would have a hard time, but I think that's a valid point that there would be the opportunity to deflect a little bit and say, well, of course I was going to lose.
I think the winner of this debate, I think it's got to be T.O. here, because
you didn't even watch the show. You don't even know what you're talking about.
As a third
As
party,
a man.
As a man.
bigot over here in the corner.
As a white devil, let me...
I'm also a blue-eyed white devil.
Yeah, literally, I do have blue eyes. 1600s feudal Japan.
Sure.
I think that would definitely be more of the issue of the men being getting bested.
I can see that.
So the reason I'm saying the women is really one, maybe two in particular. One definitely, and I think there's another one that would be very upset too, but mostly one.
There's 2 that I can think of.
Yes, because there's not a lot of other female characters in there,
and they're great.
Yeah, but
I will.
Those 2 I think would be very upset.
Yes,
one
absolutely.
in particular, but 2 that I think
that's fair
would be upset.
I think that's a great question from friend of the show, Duncan. I appreciate you listening, Duncan, and please submit more questions.
Continued support
as you come up with them, and make sure that you're listening every week, Duncan, as a friend of the show.
Whew. Man. All right. You just called down the thunder. I'm just telling you.
Man, you don't know the hate that's just going to be pouring your way.
I'm just happy to keep showing up whenever I want. And for Duncan to keep the seat warm for the original third host.
This has absolutely nothing to do with Blue Eye Samurai, which we all agree is fantastic.
Watch Blue Eye Samurai. Do yourself a favor.
Blue Eye Samurai.
Even if you are a person who does not like anime, give it a shot.
Anyways.
Give it a shot.
Or cartoons.
Give it a shot. Give it a fair shake. You will not be disappointed.
If you walk away from this, I mean, I get it if you get weirded out by the sex and nudity, which is normal, apparently, from where I sit. But if you walk away from this and not like it, I need to know why. I need to know what it was. But I'd like to hear your thoughts anyways. And you can always do that by reaching out to us on all of our socials at Geek Battalion Vets. That's Geek BN Bravo November Vets.
Or
the email at
geekbattalionvets.gmail.com. That's all spelled out. geekbattalionvets.gmail.com.
Yeah. So, is that it? Any final thoughts?
Final thoughts?
Put a fork in it or what?
I think this one's a banger. You should watch it
100%.
and make sure that if you have a chance, let Duncan know. I appreciate him keeping the scene.
What he's asking is he needs a ranking system of the top hosts on the show.
I absolutely do not need a ranking system. I appreciate Duncan coming in and being my stand-in while I'm not around. And when you get a chance, no, I'm joking.
Moving forward, we will all do this remotely because we can never be in the same room again.
No, I appreciate Duncan stepping in and being the third host. I appreciate him not being here tonight, so I have a chance to sit in with the guys and chat because I don't get to do this very often.
And if he was here remotely, within the first 5 minutes of this episode, he would have gotten his car and drove here to kill you, just so you know.
So, Duncan, I appreciate you not being here tonight so that I could be here. I will leave the seat for you until my next random return. Until then,
hopefully in 2024.
Yeah,
maybe.
we'll see. Yeah. I'm very busy.
He's an important man.
Very not important, but I'm going to do my best.
But that's it. Anything else?
No, not
anything.
I think that'll do it.
All right.
Yep.
Well, as always, take care of your left, take care of your right. Geek Battalion's got your six.
Geek Battalion out.
Tupac laughs.